Hi everyone, it's Julie Henricus. Happy Tuesday. It's November 5th, and for folks living in the United States, it's election day in a lot of places. So I hope your voting plan is ready to go. My voting plan is I'm going to be leaving after I'm done with this live today and heading to the polls to vote. I love voting. So I am doing a mini training series. I started yesterday with a broad overview of what Muse Mapping is. It's a system I've created and a program that I'm launching on November 18th to help folks on their creative journey to develop the skills and the confidence and the structure and the goals and the management, time management and everything else that can keep them on their creative journey. As we're heading into 2020, I know that a lot of folks are going to put I finally want to finish that book. I want to take up painting again. I want to bake an epic cake. I'm going to finish that quilt that's been sitting there for however long, or a multitude of other things for their creative journey. And so I recognize that and I honor that. And I'm on my own creative journey as a writer, which I love. But I also know that it takes more than just a desire to get it all done, right? It takes some skills that aren't necessarily innate. It takes getting over some obstacles and blocks, and some other time management issues, things like that. So I've created this 6-step Muse Mapping system, and the program that I'm going to be launching on November 18th is actually an 8-week program so that we can get through the new year. I include videos and worksheets on each of the steps and group coaching from me to help you get through what's getting in your way, or to process it aloud, because sometimes we need to process things aloud. So I'm very excited about that, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it at the end of this. But what these mini trainings are is every day I'm going to go through one of the 6 steps and then dive down into one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, so that you can sort of just process it on your own. So if you don't join me in Muse Mapping, do look at my YouTube channel and go to yourladders.com, check out blog posts, because there's a lot of information and support there for folks on a creative journey. So we won't leave you hanging. But the first step in the Muse Mapping journey is I'm calling preparing for the journey. Now, again, the Muse Mapping system, my thought is that, at the beginning of this process, you'll have a blank sheet of paper. By the end of the process, you'll have a map that you can adhere to and that will guide you on your creative journey. But the first step in any journey, as you all know, because you've been on different sorts of journeys, is preparing for the journey itself. All too often, we as creatives skip this part. We just think, well, the muse visited and I'm interested, so I'm going to go there right away. And I get it. And as I said yesterday, there's a balance between the magic of what inspiration is and the muse visiting and everything else, and the work itself. So I completely recognize that. And I recognize that balance is, some folks are completely balanced right the way. Some folks lean one side or the other, which is what Muse Mapping will help you do as well. But the reason I think preparing for your journey is so important is you have to know who you are and where you are and why you want to do this, and dig deep inside yourself, because it's going to take that internal work to keep you on the journey, to keep you going. And it's also the tapping into and allowing yourself to start to feel the joy of creating. You're going to hear me say this probably every single time I do one of these trainings. It's not the destination, it's the journey that's important. Enjoy the journey. Have fun along the way. It's so important. In the 6th step, I'm going to talk a lot more about that and how we need to separate what a successful artistic life and process or creative journey looks like, as opposed to how our society thinks success looks like. But stay tuned for that. That will be on day 6 or day 7 of the trainings, but the 6th step. Anyway, How do you prepare for your creative journey? In Muse Mapping, I have several different steps, and they include self-reflection. They include guideposts for you to follow and to use. And it also includes building your solid foundation of who you are as you set off on this journey. So the steps, more specifically in the way that I've laid them out in Muse Mapping, are an assessment of where you are now. So as I said, all of these steps in the program will have videos of me, worksheets, other resources that you can use so that you're not just sitting there with a blank sheet of paper trying to figure this out. So where are you now? Let's talk about your intention to create and what is it? What stopped you in the past? What is your support system like? And what is your why? So I think that these are all really important steps as we set off on our creative journeys. And let's talk about them a little bit, especially things like the intention to create. I want to say this aloud to anybody. There's nothing that is, don't ever feel foolish for wanting to create something or wanting to do something or wanting to embark on a creative journey. Don't ever feel like people are going to judge you. There are going to be people who judge you, but I think, and we'll talk about this later on this week as well, I think that the folks who judge you the hardest are the folks who aren't brave enough to step out and do it on their own. It takes some bravery to be willing to say, I want to do this, and claim your space and claim what you want to do. And some things people understand because they're, like I write. And so when I say I write a book, I'm always surprised that most people don't actually want to write a book. But that's my journey, and that's an understandable one. But if you want to do something like, create devised work on a beach with plastic that needs to be recycled and do it on a grand scale, that may be harder for folks to understand, but that doesn't mean it's less important, that it's less relevant, that it's less of a calling for you. You may also have a calling to bake beautiful cakes. And that's a calling. And, please do that. My efforts at doing that are not very good, though I keep trying. We all are called to do different things. So don't start judging yourself and your creative journey at all. And that's part of what this process is about. I also want to remind you that settling down and settling your mind is really important, because think of it as a snow globe. Think of your creativity and your creative life and these ideas as a snow globe. While we're whirring around and we're juggling, the snow is flying everywhere. It's not till you put it down, take a deep breath, and you let the snow in the globe settle that you can really find your path and that you can really find what you're trying to do. So let it settle. Let it become what you want it to do. So one of the things and one of the steps that are in this first step of preparing for your journey that I'm going to talk about today for a couple of minutes is about mission, vision, values. People have heard me talk about this a lot. Former students know that I talk about this when, we're talking about creating a company or creating anything else. But as a creative person, and if you're a business person, you know about mission, vision, values a lot. But what I'm talking about for creative folks is, this is how I define these three terms. Your mission is your why. It's what you want to do, your purpose for wanting to do things. Now, your mission, your life mission can be part, your creativity can be part of it, can be the whole thing, can be, you can have a lot of things packed into that mission, but it's what makes you unique. It's what makes you stand out. When we talk about nonprofits with a mission, their mission is what makes them unique and worthy of existing, right? I think for people, we all need to have our missions as well. And again, don't self-judge, just write it down. What is this? A vision is think in the future, and this is almost legacy thinking, I think, for us. How do you want to be remembered? That's the vision. If you live your life's mission as you've defined it, how will you be remembered? Right? Because that's the goal we're working towards, is a life well lived, right? I say, how do we want to be remembered? But maybe it's also the, what regrets will you have if you don't do things, or if you don't do things the way you want to? Does that make sense? You want to really live your life's mission so that at the end, you could say, yeah, I lived life well. And all of this constantly adjusts, and it will adjust. If you join me in the Muse Mapping program, it's going to adjust in those 8 weeks, because that's the way things go. So, so your mission is why you're doing things, and your vision is if I live my life as well as I want to, how will I be remembered? And it's such a gift to think about that. Now, the third part of this, and this is actually something I encourage all of you to do, and you can look it up online for some examples of things, but what are your core values? And core values are, I think they're like 2 or 3 words. If you have 6, that's a lot. In a business, a core value is so important to you, your business, that you'd rather go out of business or not do a project than go against them. Core values for human beings are, this is so important to me, I would rather not do this project than go against it. So we all define these for ourselves, and take some time. Sometimes you could say, oh, it's going to be, kindness, or it's going to be this. And kindness, I mean, for folks on Instagram, you're seeing this backwards, but kindness is one of my core values. I'm not always nice, right? I was for a long time, but now at this point in my life, as a woman in our world, I always endeavor to be kind, but I am not always nice. Being nice is not always necessary, but being kind, always leading with kindness, I think is. So what else are your core values? They can be, some examples can be integrity, community, family, honesty, laughter, fun. I aspire to fun as a core value. I have a lovely life, but I don't always let myself have as much fun as I'd like to. So I'm working on that. So what are your core values? What are those 2 or 3 words that you can put on a Post-it on your computer, or have on the wall in front of you, or write on a card that you carry in your wallet, that help you? They're guideposts. Mission, vision, and values are your guideposts for your journey. And as I said, they're part of that first step in the Muse Mapping program. But for you now, no matter where you are, think about those 3 things. And are you staying true to your guideposts? Are you staying true to your mission, vision, values? Do you have core values that light you up, that inspire you, that make you say, oh, this is what I want to do? Because that's the game, my friends. Like, having a creative journey is a joyful journey. A creative journey is a privilege in so many ways. We've answered the call of the Muse if you're on a creative journey. I've said before that everyone gets called, few answer. You're brave if you answer the call, no matter what the call is. But let's make sure that you're prepared to go on the journey. And one of the ways you can prepare is to make sure your guideposts are there. And your guideposts are your mission, your vision, and your values. So I love to talk about this and to think about this. If you want to send me an email, julie@yourladders.com, or if you want to respond to this in comments, I'm happy to do that. Muse Mapping, the program, the 8-week program, is going to start on November 18th, and it runs through the beginning of the new year. As I said, it's going to be weekly lessons, video lessons, and then a weekly group coaching. I'm a creativity coach, so to help folks process or get over obstacles or blocks or do things. Once you're in the Muse Mapping program, you have lifetime access to all of the different modules. So, you're not behind. And I do think that figuring out what your creative journey is and going on it in 2020 could be the best gift you give yourself, for sure. So hope you'll join me tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern Time for the next step of Muse Mapping, and I'll talk you through it, and we'll drill down on one of those steps. Thank you all for being here this afternoon, and I just making sure I don't have anything else, but I thank you all for being here. Have a fabulous Tuesday, and I'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Thanks.